Do you hate networking? Does it even work? I mean, a lot of people think that networking doesn't work and that it's a waste of time. That's exactly what our guest today, Michelle Pippin, believes. She is the founder of Women Who Wow. It's episode 93 of the 1004 show. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. What I like about Michelle is she thinks a lot like me, right? Like, networking can be a real pain in the tail, but then also she has this concept as to why you should say no to coffee dates. You know, when those people say, oh, let's just go get a cup of coffee, and how it can actually help you be more productive and grow your business. It's episode 93 of the 1004 show. Michelle Pippin, who is the founder of Women Who Wow. We do a lot of deep dives on not only the networking and the saying no, but then this other thing that we start with, which is really interesting, how oftentimes it's easier for you to make money outside of your kind of backyard than it is where you live, which is absolutely crazy. We talk about the genesis of that. Let's get into it. Michelle Pippin, episode 93. Thank you guys for tuning in. Woo! So no one pays their own profit in their own town. Where did you first hear about that?
In the Bible, actually. There's a Bible verse that says, essentially, even Jesus was rejected in his own town, but it actually says, no one pays a profit in their own town. And
Isn't that weird though? Like, shouldn't you be making money in your own place?
I don't know. I think that as an expert a little bit, there's a little bit of a push and pull, right? So like, I've never been a networker. I don't enjoy it, so I've literally never ever networked. For a little bit, I paid a couple employees to go network, and I'm like, that's kind of dumb. So yeah, but I think there's a little bit of like, she should be having to do X, Y, Z in order to be successful here. And then there's a little bit of just, I think almost like, well, she's kind of one of us. Like, why would we pay her? Like, she's just a small town girl. And so in New York or Rhode Island or California, people love like, oh, she's from the small little town. And here it's like, oh, she's just our neighbor. No sweat. So, yeah, I don't know. I found it to be true, for better or for worse.
It's interesting. I feel like I've been able to build my network locally, but we are trying to expand that to different people because at some point there's some sort of cap. And I don't think we're at that cap in where I live, but I want to be bigger than that. And so you have to have a network outside of that. So why doesn't networking work for you, or in general, why don't you think it works?
I don't know that it wouldn't work for me. I just didn't do it. And largely because I didn't want to. I didn't enjoy it. To me, it's like the small talk thing kind of irritates me. And so to have to come and actually, I did attend one like BNI meeting when I went with my aunt. I don't even think I had kids yet. And I found it a little bit, not to demean BNI, because people get amazing value out of it. And I really didn't have a business at that time, but I found it a little bit like, canned and awkward. And I'm a little bit socially awkward. And so I said, I'm just not going to do that anymore. So I don't know that it wouldn't work for me. I do work with a lot of like coaches and experts and speakers and authors and stuff. And I do caution them in terms of showing up as a peer, right? Because if you show up as a peer, if you show up as one of them, people are less likely to pay you for like your expertise because they'd rather take you to coffee and like pick your brain or, whatever. And so I think the waters can get dicey there if you're building a solid like niche as an expert in a particular area. And so I don't know that it wouldn't have worked for me. I just didn't do it.
I've gone to a couple BNIs myself. It always seemed weird. It was just like, so you're going to give me referrals every week, and I'm going to give you referrals every week. How does this work? And I never could kind of grasp the concept.
I'll tell you this because now my aunt's dead, so I can tell this story. So I kid you not. We go into the BNI, and and she says to me as we're walking in, she whispers, she's like, hey, I gave your name to this guy who sells computers, but if he calls you, just ignore him. And I was like, and I'm thinking I'd never been to BNI before, so I had no idea, like, you have to kind of do these, like, fill out these forms or what have you. And so I didn't know what she was talking about, but then I got it, right? Then I realized, and they like make a production of the referrals and stuff like that. And yeah, I think anything sort of canned and rote is suspect in my book. I'm just not going to partake, I guess. And so yeah, so I don't know. I know it works for a lot of people.
Yeah, and also like the mandatory times that you have to come and you have to get someone in. Like running a business, that is a very difficult thing to say. Oh, I can come here every single week. And I think one time I actually was considering doing it, and I was like, oh, this. I went in, I was like, oh, this wasn't so bad. And then I went back and I just was looking at it and I started running the numbers, and it was like literally 8 weeks worth of time that I was going to spend at this place, and I didn't feel that I was going to get anything close to 8 weeks of business worth of that, so I ultimately didn't do it. So you said something about like valuing your money or valuing your time with people that want to go, pick your brain at coffee. How do you take that I want to pick your brain at coffee talk and say, no, I need you to join my club or buy from me whatever my service is?
So one of the most unpopular articles I ever wrote was why we should say no to coffee dates. And the reason really is because coffee dates typically come without an agenda, or at least without a stated agenda, right? So maybe I'm hoping you're going to buy from me, or you're hoping I'm going to buy from you, but it's not stated. And so we have this coffee date, and it's like a getting to know you kind of thing. And for me, it was really, I'm not in business to make friends. I've got that sorted, right? Like I've got my friends. I'm not trying to make friends. I'm not trying to win like affirmation or popularity contest. And so, and I get asked to coffee a lot. Now I just send them the link to that article I wrote back in 2012 or whatever. But I'm like, obviously they haven't even like looked at my website. But now I just say, I don't take coffee dates unless there's like a stated agenda, like what's on your mind, right? Because to me, I'm thinking, it's not that I wouldn't help people. I'm not taking on private clients anymore. I don't do that anymore. But it's not that I wouldn't help or show up and enjoy coffee with you. But, to me, I feel like respecting someone's time is at least having a stated and honest agenda, so that we know what we're saying yes to. And the other reason I think particularly women should say no to coffee dates is because they typically come with a start time and like no end time. Right. And that's extremely suspect. I just don't, I'm in a real business, right? I'm not playing business or, doing this to tell my husband what I'm up to all day. Like, I need to be able to know, what the time commitment is, what the expectation is, and that way I can make a empowered yes or no.
Yeah, I have similar thoughts to that. I like to raise my hand a lot, and I like to see where opportunities can take me, but if you're going to a meeting or spending any type of time with someone, I do believe you should have an agenda. And I think it could be like a 4-point agenda, like I'm going to tell you who I am. I want to learn a little bit about you. I'm going to open up my product line and show you, and we're going to figure out if we can do business, right? It can be that simple. But I also have this thing I call 50-10, where if I'm trying to network or meet new people, I will try and do a series of 50 10-minute calls, basically back to back. And I will ask people to tell me one problem that they're trying to go through. So this is kind of like me doing my due diligence with prospects,
like market
right?
research.
So let's say that you potentially, exactly. So these people fill out a form and they say, "Hey, I want to talk about how I can improve my process." So then I get on the phone with them, or it's always on the phone actually, or a Skype call. I'll get on the phone and I'll be like, "Hi, how are you? So you want to talk about your improving your process. What are you doing now?" There's no like water cooler talk. I don't need any of that. I only want to hear if you potentially could become a client from hearing what your pain point is. And then we go through that. And then, it's 10 minutes, right? 50 10-minute calls, you can do that in a day. It's crazy. It's hard, but you'll learn a lot from it. And so I agree. Like that agenda thing is important, and you don't want to waste your time.
I do that with my members. The first and third Thursday of every month, they set up 10 to 15-minute calls with me. They set it up, and it's my voice is gone by the end of the day, but it's 2 of my favorite days of the month, and I not only get to serve my clients, but it's the same thing, right? It's like I'm like, hey, how's that? We only have 12 minutes. What's the best way I can serve you? And we get into you'd be surprised what can be uncovered in 12 minutes, right? When you're actually focused and you're not like wasting time.
That's the thing, focus. You said it perfectly. So many people think that it takes an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to get to an answer. And really, if that person's willing to tell you what their pain point is, and you're good at interviewing basically them, you can figure that out really, really, really quickly. So give me the elevator pitch of Women Who Wow.
It's so hilarious that you say that. I don't have an elevator pitch for Women Who Wow. I've never bought nor sold anything in an elevator. I will tell you that I'll tell you a little bit about Women Who Wow, and then I'll tell you how I got blackballed from a massive women's networking organization as a speaker about this exact same subject, which is kind of funny. But anyway, so Women Who Wow is an online alliance of seriously driven women entrepreneurs. We are not playing business. We are not husband funded. We are not like we've got employees. We've got, some of us have office space. We're, coaches and doctors and veterinarians and attorneys and authors. And we come to Women Who Wow because under one umbrella, you have the support and the accountability and the coaching that you need. And people come in to Wow, I think, for the content. I produce content like mad, right? Like every day. But they stay really because we're quite an intimate community. We've got members in all 50 states and eight countries now, and so we've grown really quickly, but we're still pretty intimate. So that's the elevator pitch for Women Who Wow.
I would say the first 30 seconds of that was definitely an elevator pitch.
Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you my elevator pitch story.
You're impressing
I
yourself.
didn't even know I had an elevator pitch, but I will. I'll tell you. I went to speak at this event, and it's an international organization, women's organization, and they brought me in, and it was the DC chapter. And I came in and I was speaking, but before I spoke, everybody in this room like went around and they're like, "Hi, I'm Michelle with Women Who Wow. We're an online community of seriously driven business owners. Michelle, Women Who Wow." And it was like super canned, and everybody did the exact same thing. Zach, I am not kidding you. It was like verbatim. And so when I got up to speak, I said, like, who are y'all talking to? Like, that is exactly how I started. I said, who are y'all talking to? Like, not me, right? And it was, anyway, the woman who ran that chapter of that organization wrote the book on creating your elevator pitch. So, needless to say, I didn't get invited back.
Wow. So, why only women?
So I actually wrestled with this a little bit. About 60 to 70% of my private clients, when I worked with private clients, were men, right? And they seem to say yes faster, pay faster, be more decisive. And I did this for women largely because I felt like I didn't find a place that I fit, to be honest with you. Like, I don't need a really large social group. I am a lone wolf. I like to work alone. But it's like at church, I felt like I wasn't, I guess, traditional enough in the female roles, I guess. And in the world, like in the business world, I found like women who worked from home were not super serious. They weren't supporting their families, right? Like I'm married to a public school teacher. I didn't start this business like, to fund a Louis Vuitton purse, right? Like I have to work. And so I felt like there wasn't anything for me. And so for about a month, I decided to see what was out there at in women's events and women's groups. And and that month was spent this way. If you asked me to go somewhere, like I said, yes, if I could physically get there, I would go. And I found that when I go to these women's groups, there were a lot of women who were in very specific industries. There weren't a lot of women who had employees or who had office space or who were attorneys or judges and I was thinking like, where are these women, right? Where are they? And I found that there really wasn't a place for us, right? For the seriously driven woman entrepreneur. Like that's where I found that, I found like there was a hole there. And to be honest though, I love men. I have an amazing relationship with my dad, amazing relationship with my husband. I've got a son and so I'm not your typical feminist in that regard, but I felt like women needed our place to just kind of come in. I didn't want there to be like a women's group of a regular organization. Like I wanted something just for us, a place where women like me could come and know that they fit.
How do you define serious in that case?
So I think the seriously driven women entrepreneur is really, they are out for more than just to say they're doing something, right? So like some of them don't have to work, right? But they have a calling, they have a passion, they have something that they are bringing to life, hell or high water. They're going to do what it takes for as long as it takes until it takes, right? That's a seriously driven woman entrepreneur. And when I look at like our members, a lot of us, they don't, although I work alone, but I've got a team of people that also work alone but work with me. And, they have teams or they have other investments in their business. Like they're not, I think this is the best way to say it. They're not just trying it out to see how it goes, right? They're in it to win it. And that's, I think, how I would define it.
I gave a presentation last night at a group, and they said, "What type of business owners do you like to work with?" And I said, "Well, the ones that pay me." That's the first answer. And but then my second part was, well, the ones that are out of that understand that it's not just putting founder on LinkedIn, and that's like the cool new thing to do. It's like, who is going to actually take some advice that I might give, or is trying to become the next, or trying to make their lives better. And if you're just doing it to, win a personality contest or, be friends with other people, like it's not for the faint of heart. And I think oftentimes, these roller coaster rides happen oftentimes within the same hour. You get really bad news, you get really good news, you get really bad news. From a business owner perspective, I never saw that when I, worked in corporate America. I was miserable in corporate America, but I never saw those roller coasters. And, these are things that I think people need to hear about, and they need to understand that, hey, this is not for the faint of heart, and it's a wild, hard ride. So how do people, your clients or people that could be your clients, how do you bring them on? What are you looking for in that kind of process when they read your blog post? How do you then turn them into kind of a member of Women Who Wow?
Yeah, so Women Who Wow grew by print invite only in the early days. Like literally, if you got a print invite, you paid and you came, and if you didn't, you didn't. And so, and I was very deliberate about that for 18 months to make sure that we had a culture at Women Who Wow that would really welcome women like us, and also let other women know like it might not be a place for them, right? Like to me, I feel like if you roll out the red carpet for one person, you are putting out the do not, you're not welcome sign somewhere else. But I really wanted to grow very deliberately. And at the time, I had a private consultancy, like it was like a boutique kind of marketing firm, and so that really paid the bills. So I wasn't concerned about growing really, really fast. I wanted to grow really, really deliberately to make sure I protected the culture. And so now it's sort of the same way, although like anybody can find my stuff and read it and come over and join Women Who Wow online. But typically we're still referral based, right? Like, people say you gotta learn about Women Who Wow, you gotta come over here. And so they bring people like themselves. And my writing, I think I do write every day and post it online. And my writing, I think, is a little bit, I certainly wouldn't think it's contrarian or polarizing, but it tends to attract the kind of woman that becomes a woman who wows, right? So like they will write to me and they'll say, it's like you were saying exactly what I'm thinking, but I've never said, right? And so in that way, I guess it's still invite only, right? But that's how we're growing really, is just through messaging, and people will come and join my list and get the invite, or they'll, at the end of every blog post, I have a call to action. Usually it's join Women Who Wow, and yeah, that's how we're growing now.
Okay, got a lot of things to talk about from that messaging alone. Okay, so is it fair to say that you went from an agency to a product business, or like an online product business?
So what was your question?
So you did the marketing agency before. Is it fair that you basically turned what you did there, instead of going one-on-one with people, you productized it and made it so that it could be with a lot of people?
Yes. Yes, I did. Okay. And so it was more like a business strategy firm, not just marketing, but my strength has always been in messaging and in copy. And so I did that with private clients because they paid well and it paid the bills. But one thing I hate to do is set appointments. It sounds so outlandish and crazy, but I hate to set appointments because then I feel like the day is not my own. And so I really started like getting deliberate, like, okay, I knew Women Who Wow would be the future of my business and my income. And so it's a membership based, income. And I also have digital products that people do buy and can buy. Some of those are under the membership umbrella, and they're just free for members. And I also have small groups. So I work with coaches, speakers, and authors in intensive groups. So I have a program coming up. It's a 9-month program, and it's for the authors, speakers, that crowd. But it's separate from Women Who Wow. But yeah, all groups.
And still only for all your clients are women?
No.
Exclusively across the board?
No,
okay, so
not even all my members are women. And they'll say, can I join Women Who Wow? And I say, listen, if your wife will, not say anything when the fee from Women Who Wow comes out of your credit card, like, you're welcome to join us, right? And so we just have a few brave men. And at our events, we always have a couple brave men. And in the intensives, we might have 50% men.
Very cool. I love that. A few brave men. Maybe I'll become a few brave
We
men.
do some fun stuff sometimes if we know there's only like 1 or 2 men, then we're ready. So like when they walk in, we play It's Raining Men. So they make a big deal about it, but we have some fun with it. But yeah, we love our men.
Throw some confetti at them. Who knows? Make it crazy. Content is king. It sounds like what you're saying. What is your favorite medium of choice for content? Video, writing?
Writing is my first thing, and I love it. It comes easily to me, and it's almost like now I wake up and I kind of get to be me a little bit. Like I just kind of journal, and then I turn that journal into a blog post. I put it on Facebook. Somebody else takes it and puts it onto the blog, and so writing is my preferred way of communicating. I also do some video because as long as I have my makeup on, I'm okay with that. And I know that there's some future in video, and so I do live stream quite a bit, and I'm starting a podcast, and Women Who Wow FM, and so I'm very excited about that. So that'll be up in a couple of months.
Very cool. Well, this is episode 93 of the 1004 show. So
congratulations, that's awesome.
It's I think the whole world. I don't know, like I always wanted to do one, and as I reflect back, looking at certain things, I'd started a couple like small things, and then I interviewed someone for my TV show, and he said most people don't get to episode 7; they quit before episode 7, and twice that happened to me, and I was like, oh, I never got there. And so with this, the goal is to get it out once a week. We did that, and then this year was like, okay, let's do twice a week. And now we're thinking about doing a couple more than that a week, and it's fun. So how do you learn what you outsource to other people and what you actually do yourself?
Anything I don't want to do, and I have been a little bit pig-headed in the past couple of years. But before I outsource, I just want to say, like, I learn enough about it to know like what I'm looking for, right? Like I never invest money in something I totally don't understand. But like I would never edit my own podcast or put it up or learn how to put it on Libsyn or any of that. Like I'm just never going to do that. And because those are the things that I procrastinate on. And so I found that when I outsource that which I would procrastinate on, I do better financially, right? Because all of a sudden, like it just gets stuck somewhere, and it gets stuck because I sort of I quit my job when my kids were born, and so my goal then was to be at home with them and not miss any can't miss moments, and I did that. And now I have a little bit of a different business, right? I kind of get to make the rules, and I'm not going to stress and learn over something, specifically something technical, because I can outsource it to someone who loves to do it, does it so much better and faster than me, and it frees me up to message more, right? Which is where my money comes from.
Yeah. Currently, I still edit all of these.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! That's
Yep. So
for you, that might be
actually,
good. You might love it, right?
It is a former career of mine.
Okay. See, I have no skill there. I'd have to like learn it and then do it.
Yeah, it's not even that it takes a lot of time. It's just time that sometimes you can look at something and say, okay, it's an hour to do this thing. But then when you really look at that hour and multiply it by the amount of weeks in the year, you're like, okay, it's 52 hours. What could I have been doing with those 52 hours that I lost there? And so in this case, especially as we start adding more a week, I'm definitely going to be outsourcing, and I've been talking to some editors to do it. It's just, I would do it, but I want that time back to be able to do the episodes.
That's right.
I mean, now I can do more episodes and ship it off to someone. They edit it, and like you said, they make some money doing it. I get some time back, and it all works out.
That's right.
For someone who sucks at writing, or someone who is trying to improve their skills in in a notepad, what are some of the things that you've done to improve your writing?
So I've always written since I was a little girl, and I love to write. For people who say they don't write really well, right, or they don't write quickly, like the first thing I say is you're probably editing yourself, right? Like stop self-editing, just write, right? Because that's where all the delay comes in. That's where all the judgment comes in. And so I don't like edit my crap. Like we'll have I just sent something to someone and I noticed there's like a spelling error or something on the cover, and I was like, whatever, right? Good is good enough. And the key points I think for writing is write the way you talk, right? Because I think that's so important for people to really grasp your message. Write the way you talk. Don't edit yourself. And what's made me better in the past, particularly in the past couple of years, is I have kind of just let the message go, right? Like I've just kind of like whatever I want to write about is exactly what I want to write about, and that's what I unleash into the world. And so I haven't edited myself at all. I don't stick with a content calendar. I have a writing habit, which I am doing every day, 7 days a week. But it's I don't edit or stick to a calendar or try to do topics or anything like that.
So you found that not having a content calendar is actually best for you?
For me, it's been a whole lot better because it's like I have this benefit in Women Who Wow called Entrepreneurial Espresso. And it's literally served up hot and fresh every morning to kind of get their blood pumping when they come into the Facebook group. And it's just a little blog post, essentially. And so it's something to kind of, boost them in the morning. And I feel like content is best served up hot and fresh, right? So like if it's right now relevant and I'm writing it and I know people are going to see it in like 10 minutes, there's a different energy to it for me than if I'm like writing something that's like, oh, well, this is going to go and be put out there in, June or whatever. And I also really like to be able to ebb and flow with the market. So I'm always right now relevant. And so right now, as an example, I have a print newsletter, which is the only content that I plan, but I have a print newsletter as part of the membership. And our topic is autonomy this month, right? Best topic. I love autonomy. And this is, so I've had to, I actually resist writing the newsletter a lot because it's planned and I know what I've got to write about. So for me, the content calendar doesn't work. But what I've replaced it with is, I think, so important because you can't not have a content calendar and not have a writing habit, right? So I have a routine in the morning where I get all my writing done. And so that's, I guess, what frees me from the content calendar.
Yes, I mean, it's still kind of a content calendar because it is every day and you know that something's coming out. So it's not like you're not producing, right? You call it a writing habit. You are still getting content out there.
Yeah, I just don't plan like I don't know what I'm going to write about tomorrow, or, what I'm saying? I don't have it all written out. I've tried it. I've tried content calendars and they were fine. But for me, I just didn't like it.
It's one of the reasons why I like this show to be unscripted.
Yes.
Right? Some people are like, please give me the questions beforehand. And literally, every time I've done that, whether it's this show, the TV show that I shoot on ABC in my hometown or my backyard, like when people ask me for the questions beforehand, every single time they suck.
Yes. Yeah.
Literally, because they're like, oh, I need to memorize these questions, and I'm like, that's not natural. They're like, well, I want to know what you're going to ask me. I'm like, I'm not going to ask you anything ridiculous. So we just started this thing this week, actually, called Zach Miller Live, where I'm going on Facebook Live to just talk about things. And that's become like my new habit, right? So 5 days a week at this point, maybe I'll go to 7 days a week. I'll talk to my following for 20 to 40 minutes on topics that I decide on that day, basically. So maybe it's on something that I'm thinking about writing about. I did one today, like my 2018 predictions on business and sports. And I mean, it's just trying to engage with people and trying to provide them what you think they want because that's what they tell you. And I love, what would you call it? The espresso piece? What was that called?
Entrepreneurial Espresso.
I love that. I'm like sitting there wondering, like, wanting to make some espresso at the same time. I mean, it sounds like fun. So, you talked about a lot of your business comes from referrals. Are you doing something actively to request referrals?
I do a couple times a year. I will do that, and we actually just did that maybe a month ago. And so we will ask our current members to introduce us to someone, and so and really it's just send me an email and them an email, and I only ask for one. Some people do more than one, and just let them know that they're a member of Women Who Wow and they'd like to introduce them to it. And so that's sort of how we do that. So we do that formally at least a couple times a year.
Is there any kind of incentive for them to do that?
No. And I never create that. And I don't accept incentives either. Like, I don't do any affiliate relationships ever. And I don't offer any. And, it keeps it, for me, it keeps it really pure. Like, so if I tell my people, like, go buy this book or go to this event that I'm, going to in Florida, they know it's not because I get a kickback. I don't get $1 if they buy the book. I don't get $500 if they go to the event. They know that I'm inviting them because I want them to get the most out of it, and I feel like it'd be good for them. So I don't accept affiliates, and I don't offer them. They refer people because they love Women Who Wow, and because they feel like it'd be a good fit for somebody else.
What is Michelle Pippin the best in the world at?
What am I the best in the world at? Being Michelle Pippin, I guess, right? No one beats me at that. No, I think that I am, one of the things that people talk with me about all the time is sort of my confidence, my mental toughness. And I just have a no BS and no tolerance mentality for a lot of things, but certainly anything that would leave people feeling less than or not enough or whatever. So I feel like my confidence really defines me. And from a business perspective, it's all messaging. I feel like there's no problem, no health problem, no love problem, no business problem that the right sales letter can't cure. Seriously. And so, messaging is my passion. But I think that really what I'm in the best at is just being me and being authentic and ruthlessly authentic with how I communicate with my market and how I show up.
Do you think you're ruthlessly authentic because of something bad that happened in your life that you really learned from?
Nothing bad. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Like, my parents were amazing, but one of the things that I feel like probably was the best gift they ever gave me next to my faith was the fact that there was no pretense in our home. Nothing. Like, there was only like what something was. We never discussed like what it looked like or what people might have thought. It was only like what it was. There was zero pretense. In fact, when I was in 6th grade, I'll never forget this conversation with my mom. But I said something and I said, well, because she's popular. And my mom said, who? And I said the name, whoever I was talking about. And my mom said, well, who says? And I said, well, who says what? And she says, well, who says who's popular? Who makes that list, right? And I don't know what it was, but it just like hit me, that kind of defiant, like, who says, right? Who makes these rules? And so I think that that home that I grew up in, it just led me to not consider being anything but myself. I guess I was raised to think I was enough, and it was quite, in fact, I didn't meet people. I mean, maybe I should grow up sheltered. I didn't meet people who were like pretentious until I went to college. Literally. Like, I was quite blown away by people who would be obviously like showboating. I mean, it was shocking to me, seriously. So I think it's just the way I grew up.
You said you have how many kids?
3.
Are you okay with them becoming a business owner in the future?
Oh my gosh, yes. I hope that they do. Like, I don't ever recommend a job like for somebody. And I know not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. But I can't imagine my kids becoming anything but an entrepreneur. Like my oldest daughter is 19 and she works full time. It's quite like, this is her first year, like, where she didn't get off for like spring break and all this stuff. So you figure they see me and they see my husband, who's a teacher, which means he's home for every school day and snow day. He's home at 4. He's home for Christmas. Like, they've never seen anyone with like a real job. So
interesting. You work from home?
I do.
The remote world is becoming pretty popular. What are some of the tips that you have for people to be productive at home while they're working?
So I think one thing is to really be passionate about what you're doing, because there's things that we can all focus on for hours, right, and not be distracted. When people talk to me about a lot of distractions, there's one of two things going on. One, they don't really love what they're doing, right? Because like one of my family's complaints about me is like, if I'm into something, like I don't even hear them, right? Like I don't even know they're there. And so I think one is just really passionate, but the more practical thing is to be really vigilant about your work hours. And this is something that I started doing mainly not because I thought it'd be good for my business, but I started being like super vigilant about protecting my work hours, because if I didn't, then work would spill over into my home hours, and that was just not going to happen. Like my husband is first, then my kids, and then this business. And like, I'm not going to muck that up, right? So the thing is, when I realized that if I wasn't really, really like defending these work hours, then they started to creep into my home hours, and I'm not going to do that. So really set your time and make sure that you are willing to say no. Like I tell women all the time, like build in a pause, right? Because you're always asked to do stuff. Can you meet me for coffee? Can you pick up this from the pharmacy? Can you do whatever? And I started always having a maybe answer. For one, if you say, oh, let me check my calendar, people know you got a calendar, right? Like if you work from home, a lot of people assume you don't. So like, yeah, let me check my schedule. I'll get back to you. Two, a lot of emergencies disappear while you're getting back to them. And three, it allows you to really, say, okay, well, will this 10-minute task take me away from what I promised to do or what I've committed to doing? So I really feel like the boundaries and just being willing to defend the boundaries unapologetically is what can keep you from, being distracted and keep you on track at home or anywhere.
Well, one of my favorite quotes is by a guy named Derek Sivers. He wrote a book or had a business called CD Baby. He also had a pretty popular business book, and he basically built iTunes before iTunes.
Oh, wow.
It was his claim to fame, but obviously iTunes made a lot more money than he did. But he has a quote similar to what you're saying, and it's when you get invited to do something or there's an opportunity for something to go on your calendar, if the answer isn't heck yeah, always say no. So like if you're not super excited about that thing, he uses a different word than heck, but I want this, to be the show to not have the explicit words on there. So he says if you're not super excited about doing it, just say no, because you're going to go to it, you're going to spend time, travel time, you're going to be ticked off when you're there, and you're just wasting time. And especially if you know the outcome beforehand and you're just trying to, you're too afraid to say maybe, you're too afraid to say no. Like I love saying no. I'm just like, nope, can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think it's just a fear of like disappointing people or something, and to me, I'm thinking I'm willing to disappoint a whole lot of people, and the heck yes or heck no. I wrote a blog post about that just literally like 2 months ago, and I didn't use heck, but one of the things that I love about the organization that I run is that we are a heck yes or heck no community, and we always have been. We've never been member hungry. Like it's the right member or no member, and that's really how we've been. And so I live by that, the heck yes or the heck no. But I got the pause from Oprah years ago when she was still like Oprah on like Channel 13. She said she was counseling some people who won the lottery, and they were like struggling because everybody came, and I thought, oh my God, this is me. Not because I won the lottery, because I work from home, right? And everybody thinks I'm sitting around waiting for them to give me something to do that day, right? And so she told that couple, she said, the next time somebody calls you and says, oh my God, they're going to repossess my car, like, can I have $600 or whatever? Then you say, my husband and I talk about all the financial requests on Wednesday night. I'll get back to you like on Thursday, right? And that's where I got that from. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. Every answer for somebody back then, if you asked me to freaking blow my nose twice, I'd be like, let me check my calendar, I'll get back to you. It was always the pause so that I could either have an empowered yes or an empowered no.
It only took 93 episodes to get to the Oprah mention.
Okay.
But there we go. So you just said that you're willing to say no to a lot of people. Why did you say yes to this interview?
Well, I was excited about it, right? I was excited about it. I also have a couple books coming out this year, and I have had committed as a heck yes to doing more and more interviews like this, this year. So I'm actively looking for them. And so, but also because you're local as well. And so I was excited. I saw you speak at, what was the one where you have like 20 slides or something, 30 seconds each? What is that?
Like
Disrupt.
recently?
Yeah, Disrupt. HR Disrupt.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so you asked me about it. I was definitely excited and said yes.
How did I do on the stage?
Oh, I thought you did amazing, right? I thought you did great.
So there was like 20 other speakers. Was I the best?
I was there with another speaker.
I don't like to lose. I think I just lost. Oh, this is disappointing.
No, they were all great. I think I win the worst one award. I spoke there last year, and get this. So I don't do scripted crap, right? Like ever. And so it was already outside of my comfort zone. And then, one of our Women Who Wow members was a speaker, and I think she did amazing. But I said yes to that because it was out of my comfort zone. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I assumed that I'd be able to see, my slides. Only last year they didn't have that option. So I literally
I didn't get to see mine either.
Oh, well, that's good. I assumed everybody could. Well, when I thought that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm blown away. So I was a nervous wreck to do that. And I sat there with Courtney Bazell, and I was like, I cannot even believe I'm getting ready to go up there and bomb, which I pretty much did. But, I was the worst speaker.
I can't stand scripted talks either.
It's
the worst. So how do you find interviews? You're trying to, get on different shows. You're trying to tell people about your book or your books. What's the strategy behind that?
In terms of how I get the interviews?
Yeah, how do you find which ones you think are the right fit? How do you actually get on the shows?
Okay, so I try to find the ones that are the right fit. I kind of Google shows that obviously deal with women entrepreneurs and or the coach speaker market, and I always try to like give get, right? So for one, I also don't want to be cliche, right? And so like there's only so many ways to pitch a show, right? And I don't want to be like one of many. So what I typically go in with is an interview request for them, right? I write for Money Inc. I write for Biz Women. I write for my own stuff. And so I'll typically go in with an invite for them and say, hey, can I interview you for my Money Inc. column? Or can I interview you? And like that answer is always yes. And so then I get to know them like, oh my God, I have a, whatever podcast. Can you come on? And so it's like it's their idea almost, right? But it's very strategic on my part.
I like that. I might use something similar as a strategy.
always. You got to use what you have. And so what I don't have is like I'm not the big name that people are like clamoring to get speak at their conference or speak at their event or whatever or be on their podcast. And so I got to use what I have. So that's what I go in with.
Well, and you have a vehicle that they want to get on.
That's right.
And it makes a lot of sense. How does someone understand what they should be doing or what they're best in the world at or what they love? Because I think maybe we have similar clients where they are unhappy where they are and they want to be doing something different or they want to get out of the current situation that they are. How do they kind of figure out what they should be doing?
So I see people like shoulding all over themselves all the time, right? I would first encourage.
What is it called?
Shoulding.
What?
Shoulding, like
okay.
They're should.
Okay.
They have the list of shoulds that are a mile long,
Got
right?
it.
And I feel like it's such a prison of our own making. Like, what should I be doing? What's expected of me? Like, what's the right path? Blah 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 blah. I don't believe in like finding myself or any of that. I really feel like people do know what they love, what they are great at. They might not have admitted it yet because in the conversations with me, they might not know how to monetize it, right? So they're like, oh, it can't be that, so I don't know what it is. And so I think that really just being honest, like really what does light you up, and stop the shoulding. What you should be doing. The truth is, I don't know what any of us should be doing, but I know what I want to do. And for me, I feel like things start to shift when they start creating the agenda for every single day based on what they really want to do versus what they feel like they have to do or what they need to do. And then it just brings a whole different energy to it. And that cannot be, I don't feel like, overstated. And so that's really, I don't know if that's the right answer to your question, but I feel like people know, and they just need to embrace it a little bit and not be afraid. Like, oh my God, what I'm getting ready to do. And I'll give you a perfect example. I had a private client who's a male veterinarian in New York, and he, basically he has a wife and kids, and he really wanted to do just holistic stuff, right? Acupuncture, herbals, Tuina, things like that. And so, like, he came home and he told his wife, like, hey, I'm not doing surgeries anymore. That's like $300,000 out of his income, right? I'm not doing it anymore, because he knew that he wanted to kind of really build this little holistic hospital on Long Island. And that's exactly what he did. I think we spend too long in what we should do. And it's like, wake up and say, God, what would light me up today, right?
I like that. Shoulding. Never heard that. I like that. And I thought maybe you were trying not to say the
no.
SH.
Yeah. And I had some creative
but shoulding.
words.
Got it. No, I was like, oh, that's interesting. What's a question that a lot of people ask you that I have not?
I think you have not asked me because you are not a woman, and I don't think you're married with children yet. True?
Married.
Oh, married. Okay. Congratulations.
Shout out to my wife, who doesn't watch the show. Thanks, babe.
My husband doesn't either. But so the question that I get asked most often is, how do I get it all done? Right? Because I'm pretty loud and vocal about how my family will always come before my business. And so that's what I get asked the most about. It's like, how do I get it all done? And I have tried to answer that question a million different times. I've had trainings on like time hacking and all this stuff, and it all helps. But the truth is, I just have boundaries that I will absolutely defend, and I'm willing to disappoint people, so I say no a lot, and I get my most important work done first. Like, it's so cliche, right? Like, to have the morning routine. Truth be told, I can be done every morning at 11 a.m. Bible, journal, entrepreneur espresso, my message, my live stream, and client and member interaction, and selling. Like, I can have all that done by 11 a.m. And and writing comes quickly for me, but my suggestion is, do what comes quickly for you, right? Like, do your thing, your way of messaging.
I think most people can get things done a lot earlier than they can if they really start to dissect and take an inventory of their life and realize, oh, I watch Netflix 60 hours a week.
It's shocking.
But I don't have any time. Oh.
I'm so judgmental about that, right? Like, I see it on Facebook, and people are like, I'm binge watching, whatever. I'm like, I remember when binge was like something that you went to see a therapist about, right? I remember that. What happened? Like 6 hours, 8 hours. And people will put, and they'll say it in public, if I spent 8 hours like watching something, I would never admit it to another living soul, right? I could not do that. But I do enjoy, like, my time with my husband. We do watch movies, and we look for shows that we can, like, fall into. But, I think that the time that people waste is shocking. But mainly I feel like they're not accountable for it, right? So people might get accountable for their money if you go through, like, a program or something, like, tracking their money. Very few people get really accountable with their time. And I think that would be, something that could really help a lot of us just live better in integrity, right?
I do think that people should live their lives, though, right? I do think that 24/7 is an overstatement.
Oh, sure.
It will hurt a lot of people. I joke with people and I go, I don't necessarily work a 9 to 5. I mean, I work a decent amount, but if I need to take a bubble bath, I'm gonna take a bubble bath, and I don't really care what anyone thinks about it, right? Like, live your life. If you want to watch some TV, go watch some TV. If you whatever you want to do it. But don't complain about something when you realize that whatever that thing is consuming your life instead of you making a bigger impact on your life.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the book or the books that you're writing.
So I'll tell you about the first one, and it's called Without Compromise: The Women Who Wow Manifesto. And really, it's about creating wild success on your own terms without compromising exactly what you just said, without compromising the bubble bath, without compromising like the time to be with your husband or to go and see every single, baseball, softball, track, volleyball game that your kids are in. Like that's something that I'm really passionate about, because as much as I love my business, and it's my second passion, like this business came about because I wanted to be here for my kids. And so my first passion is my family. And so it's always without compromise. And here's what I found, and what I hope will be seen through the book, is that there are very practical things you can do to start to carve out this wild success without compromise business. And all of us can do it. We just have to be willing to be bold enough to do it. And success comes faster when you don't compromise. Because when you're compromising, what happens is you kind of fall into that sea of mediocrity with all the other business owners who are willing to do absolutely anything to get attention or to get their name out there or whatever. And so you can actually create success faster and more enjoyable and without killing yourself, right? I'm not willing to kill myself. I'm not willing to forgo date night or miss a ball game, God forbid, right? Like, I'm not willing to do that.